What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today we're going to take a look at my tier list from over a month ago for the current standard format, and I'm going to update it. We're going to talk about how things have changed, maybe how some things have stayed the same. So just a short little update on how I view the standard format of Team Up Through Darkness Ablaze. Before we do that, though, shout out to PotownStore.com, the best place for you to get PTCGO codes, and be sure to use code Celio for 5% off over there. They've got Darkness Ablaze, Champions Path, tin and box promo codes, everything you can need for PTCGO. So this is the original tier list I made over a month ago, and we've had tons and tons of online tournaments since then, so a lot potentially could have changed, or things could have been proven to stay the same. So I made this with tier S, A, B, C, D, and F, and for validity purposes we'll keep those same tiers. Now I have a blank one here, and we're going to be filling this in and comparing it. So let's just start at the top. I left S tier blank, but I did say when I made this tier list that if I had to put something in S tier, I would put Eternatus. Eternatus was the only thing I thought could potentially be S tier. Now, at the moment, I'm still choosing to not put anything in S tier. I don't think anything is that ahead of everything else in the format still. Now, does ADP is ADP very good? Yes, ADP is very good. ADP Zacian. It has the potential to beat just about anything, but its win rates and its tournament wins and its performance is not overall substantially better than every other deck. I'd argue to say that ADPZ's win rates and tournament win rates and overall performance isn't even the best. Like Eternatus and Centiskorch also perform fairly well. So, Eternatus and ADPZ, I definitely think are still in tier 1 or tier A. Mewtwo and Mew has definitely fallen a bit. I think I'm going to put that in tier B. Now, the other one we had in tier A in this list was Lucario, Melmetal, Zacian. This deck is still very good. I think I might move it down to B. I'm not sure if I want to put it on the same level as these guys anymore. Now, the deck I do want to move up is Centiskorch. I think people have kind of worked on lists more. The lists have become better. That's basically why I think Centiskorch has become a better archetype, because the lists have become better. It's been performing much better. Its popularity has been up. The lists seem more consistent and more agreed upon between different community members. So I really want to put Centiskorch up in tier A. I think it kind of belongs there. And Lucario, Melmetal, while I think it's kind of like ADP Zacian in the way it can win most things, I'm not sure it has the inherent strength. I do think it's a very, very strong deck, but I think I'm going to put it in tier B. Because I do think it lacks some inherent strength, although it does have a fairly decent matchup spread. So we had Inteleon in tier B, and I definitely think Inteleon has dropped. We're going to put that in tier C. Inteleon has definitely dropped down to tier C, I think. Eternatus is playing less special energy, so Tina affects it less. ADP-Z is not a extremely good matchup unless you're playing hammers in Inteleon. Centiskorch gaining popularity could be good for Inteleon, but Eternatus isn't as sure of a thing as it used to be, but it is still a good matchup. ADPZ is a very shaky matchup. Lucario is just an auto loss. And Inteleon also I don't think it's as consistent as these decks up here. And even Lucario. Lucario is fairly consistent. So I think I'm dropping Inteleon down to tier C, unfortunately. Mad Party, I'm also going to be dropping. Mad Party has had not very many results. Now, tier C decks aren't bad per se. Like Inteleon has had some okay results. Mad Party has had some okay results. They just aren't performing as consistently well as these other decks up here. What else do we have? We have Baby Blounds and we have Decigoons. Decigoons I'm actually putting in tier B. Decigoons has been on a tear lately, and it's just proving itself to have a spot in the meta. We weren't sure if it would just be a counter deck that pops up like once a month, and it's proving to not be like that. It's actually showing up consistently and performing consistently, so I'm comfortable putting it up in B tier. And then the other one was Baby Blounds. We're going to put Baby Blounds down here. Still a deck that performs well sometimes, but just doesn't show as consistent of results as the other ones. And also, I usually say this at the beginning of my tier lists, but tier lists are fairly arbitrary. They're subjective to the person making the tier list. This is just my best way to depict how I view the standard format. So if you were wondering what I think the best decks are, and then the next best decks, and then the next best decks, this is the best way to show you that. Tier C was actually fairly large last time. I think tier C is probably going to be a lot smaller this time because more things had potential at the beginning of the format. So let's start putting some more things in tier C and potentially even tier B. Torkoal goes in tier C. It's a strong deck into the right meta but has consistency issues. Picoram, I feel like Picoram could be tier B, but I think I'm gonna leave it in tier C. I'm not. I know some people think it's really, really good. I think it's solid, but I don't think it's better than Luke Metal or Mewtwo Welder. I'm not sure if I think it's as good as those decks either. So we'll just put it at the top of C because I do think it's solid. Regular Decidueye, I don't think you ever play Decidueye without Obstagoon, so we're just putting that in F. Obstagoon itself, I have not seen anything from. Spiritomb, I have not seen anything from, but it could just be being chased off because of an ADP meta. I'll come back to that one. ADP Decidueye is just, like I said, you just want to play Decidueye Goons. You don't want to play that. Dragapult definitely has a C tier deck. It has potential, but Eternatus chases it out. It's also has a poor matchup to Centiskorch, has a poor matchup to Luke Metal, so it has a lot of poor matchups hanging around. It could be good versus Mewtwo, ADP, and Decidueye Obstagoon, so 3 good matchups, 3 bad matchups above it, but we'll put it in C tier for that reason. Sandaconda, I want to put it in D tier. It's not F tier, I don't think, because it did prove that it's worth winning a non-ADP tournament, and it can hold its, I think it held its own in a couple actual tournaments without ADP banned as well, so we'll put it in D tier. It's a very rogue deck, but it's not a complete shock to see it played. Vikavolt, it's had some fringe success. So Vikavolt Amoonguss I've seen have a little bit of success. I'm going to put it in D, just because it hasn't completely proven its worth on the tier list yet, but I wouldn't be opposed to seeing people move it up to C. Toxtricity Mill has done nothing. Excadrill Control, I think this has potential. It also depends on what format the tournaments are being played in, like best of 1 or best of 3, how much time you have to play kind of thing. So the online atmosphere of the events kind of influences how good Excadrill is, but we'll put it in C tier. Heatran stands for Firebox, but I think like you just want to be playing Torkoal if you're playing Firebox, so like we'll put non-Torkoal Firebox down here. Scissor has not been played. Salamence is D tier. Charizard is D tier. Rillaboom has not been played, I don't think. But actually, we'll let this represent like Rillaboom Egg Growl, which has seen some play. We'll put that up in D tier. Cinderace, no. Toxtricity, I want to say Toxtricity is worth D tier. But I have not seen a single result from it, so we'll put it in F. Phalanx, no results. Malamar, no results. Caparaja, no results. Lapras, I'll say D tier just because it has Frostmoth as support and a lack of lightning in the meta. Stonejourner, I'm tempted to put it in D tier, but I think Sandaconda is just better than it. Spiritomb I'll put in D tier because it does see a bit of play. And Sableye, I have not seen a single result from it, although I do think it has potential. We'll put it in D tier. So yeah, it looks like that's my current list. Let's see how different it was from this. So and in the original list, I had Deci ADP and regular Decidueye in C tier, but I don't think those are even decks at this point. So, I mean, that just goes to show how, like, you know, you can make a tier list at the beginning of a meta, but then play in tournaments for like 5 weeks and see how it goes, and things can definitely change. So I think I'm comfortable calling this my current tier list. Yeah, I think the 3 best decks are Eternatus, ADPZ, Scorch. Like, and I'm kind of basing that off of, in the past few days when people have been asking me, yo, what are the best decks? I tell them Eternatus, ADPZ, and Scorch, but Luke Metal and Mewtwo are also good. That's kind of how I've been describing it. And I think that this tier list perfectly depicts that, while also tossing Decidueyes up there because it just gets a lot of free wins versus Eternatus and ADPZs that aren't teched, and Luke Metals that don't know how to play the matchup, and other decks that just don't have counters. So this is my current Team Up Through Darkness Ablaze tier list. I am not influencing it by Champion's Path because Champion's Path isn't even legal yet, plus there's not too many things that I think change the meta coming from Champion's Path anyway. If you wanted to make your own tier list, I'll leave a link for that in the description of this video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already for daily Pokemon TCG content, and leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.